next episode of Titus Balls Knee.
What up, y'all? I ain't been here for a good minute. I don't even remember the last video or review that I did. But let's get into it. Spider-Man Across the Spiderverse. Flawless movie, right? Saw the movie 2 times. I know I will buy that movie on DVD when it first comes out, right? Loved the movie, and the movie was just everything. I would say, like, CG wise, animated wise, good, right? The movie knew how to handle multiple characters at once really well. It handled the multiverse pretty well as well too. Like, there was no flaws in it. I would say the only flaw I had in that movie that I didn't like was, like, the portals were open too long for that movie. Like, they just left the portals open way too long. Like, when did the portals close? Like, I felt like the portal never closed. Like, the portals they were open for at least a good 30 minutes. Like, anybody could go through those portals. But other than that, like, I really didn't find any issues wrong with that movie. Everybody's character development was handled well, right? All the characters and just everything was handled, and we weren't saturated with all these Spider-Man and women, right? We weren't oversaturated with them. And if you knew all these Spider-Man, if you read the comics and just watched cartoons and knew all the Spider-Man, you would see every Spider-Man in the movie. I can't point them all out. I know Superior Spider-Man was in there. Almost all the Armored Spider-Man was in there. Spider-Man PS4 game was in there. Iron Spider from not Secret Wars, freaking Civil War was in there. Like, every single Spider-Man was in that movie, and the art style from every Spider-Man, like the main Spider-Man, the art style, I loved it. When she was more of a pastel type of colors, even which that she had in her comic books. Miles, he basically had graffiti style. That was nice. Miguel O'Hara, he had a futuristic style, and just Peter Benjamin Parker, he had his own style as well too. Even with Scarlet Spider, right? Ben Reilly, he had the old 90s style on him. Even with Spider-Man Unlimited, he had his style from the 90s cartoon. Late 90s, early 2000s. Even Spectacular Spider-Man, right? Shout out to Sean Galloway, because he's my favorite artist. He had his style, right? Which he created in the movie. Like, every Spider-Man had their own style. They kept it true to all the comics and cartoons, and even the video game versions. They kept it true to those styles. And just, I purely loved it, right? I couldn't really get enough of it. The things that I took away from that movie, from what I felt like what the movie was about, was just basically parenting, right? I just got parenting from it. Like, hey, yes, how do you parent? Like, you are afraid of basically parenting a kid, like things you do, the things you don't do, and stuff like that. The things that you think you hope you're parenting your child right to be the best person that they're going to be, or be better than what you're supposed to be, right? You know, Miles is going through a lot of stuff. He's basically hiding his identity from his parents. He was lying from his parents. He wanted to tell them the truth, but he didn't know how things would turn out and everything like that. Basically, his parents, they were basically not giving him the space that he needed. Also, Miles missed his friends, the people he could relate to. And granted, we've all been through that. You know, we've all been through, like, we needed people to talk to our problems and everything, and people that we relate to, because what else could we do with our stress and anxiety and the things that we wanted to deal with? So Miles didn't have his friends, and when he finally saw his friends, he was happy. His mom saw that he was happy hanging with Gwen. You know, they didn't know who Gwen was, but she saw it and she let him go hang with his friends. But the lesson she told him, she was like, never let nobody change who you are. You know, continue being you, right? Even with Peter B. Parker, right? When he had Mayday, and oh my God, Mayday was so freaking amazing. I want more of Mayday. She was just adorable, baby Spider, right? Even he was afraid, like, was he going to do things right? And to be honest, there's a certain scene there was with him and Miles. When Miles was running away, he was like, look man, I had her because of you, right? He was like, I wanted a kid and I wanted her to be just like you because you're such an awesome person, right? You know, Miles impacted a lot of people in the first Spider-Man movie. And he was just afraid. There was a book that he was reading. Let me see what it is. Look it up right quick. But basically, yeah, you know, how to talk so kids will listen, and listen so kids will talk. You know, and that's one thing as parents that they go through, or we go through, stuff like that. You know, we don't listen to what our kids have to say, but at the same time, it's like, you have to look at yourself. You've been that age before. You've been through the things that these kids, or your kid, or whoever has been through, and all they do is listen to them and guide them in what you've experienced and what you've been through. You know, Gwen, you know, she basically, same thing in the comics, she lost her best friend. She lost Peter. Her dad basically blamed her for killing Peter. You know, in the comic and in the movie, it was two different things or whatever. He didn't reject her when he found out that she was Spider-Woman and everything, or Ghost Spider. In the comic, he didn't reject her. He protected her. In the movie, he rejected her. But at the same time, it was still the whole parenting thing. He was afraid. He didn't know what to do. You know, he didn't listen to her. But when she came back, he listened. And you know, stuff like that. So that's what I got out of the movie. Basically, I got out of the movie the whole parenting aspect. Now, when it came to other people basically talking about the movie, you know, saying racism, saying A, racism. There was racism in the movie. B, talking about Gwen is basically gay and stuff like that. And what was the other thing? The other thing, right? Because I skipped a little part. The other thing they were talking about, yeah, I mean, I guess it is based on racism. So there's a scene that said, you know, some people were trying to point out, Peter spoke to Miguel, not Peter, freaking Miles spoke to Miguel in Spanish, right? Miguel responded back to Miles in English. And from what I've heard, that's more of like disrespect in the Hispanic community. I could be wrong. I don't know. You know, but I've heard that, you know, that's the type of disrespect. But I went back, and after the second time watching the movie, second or third time, I don't remember, Miles spoke to Miguel in Spanish. Miguel responded back in Spanish. The only time that someone responded back in English was basically when Miles' mom spoke to Miles in Spanish. He responded back in English because they were in an argument. And I think it maybe happened a couple times. That's the only time. So I was like, no, there was no racism between Miguel and Miles. Miguel was responding back to him in Spanish. And then people were saying like, oh, it's only the black characters, looking out for the black characters and this and that, all that stuff. Actually, from what I saw in the movie, Spider-Punk, right? Hobie. Like his Spider-Man, it's pretty cool. He's more of an anarchy Spider-Man, you know, punk rock Spider-Man. And basically, he reminded me of basically Zack De La Rocha. If you guys don't know, Rage Against the Machine, that's a punk band. Love that band back in the 90s, right? But yeah, Hobie basically reminded me of any punk rock person, any anarchy type of person, Rage Against the Machine, Rage Against the System. They're against the system. So I don't really see him as being that, oh, just because you're black, I'm black, I'm gonna look out for my people. Nah, I actually saw him in the same way too. If he was actually a white person as well too, like a white punk rock person, looking out for just that one Spider-Man who's against the system because he's liberal, he's a punk rocker, he's an anarchist type of person. So I would see if he was any race to look out for that spider. Now, when it came to Spider-Bite, the other black spider chick or whatever, they had a type of connection. So if you guys know from the Silk, right? From the Spiderverse comics, or just the Silk comic and anything as well too, when Silk met Peter, they had an instant connection. They was more attracted to each other, more of a hormonal type of thing. So that was already connected. So that's what Spider-Bite and Mouse, they instantly connected just like that. It was more of a pheromone type of thing. Now, when it came to Issa Rae character, Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, right, the other black character, yeah, she was with Miguel on the whole like saving the multiverse thing and stuff like that. But at the end, when Gwen said, I thought we were the good guys, you can see in Jessica's face, she felt bad because she knew that Miles wasn't a bad person, that he was actually doing the right thing, but he just didn't know what he was doing, that he was causing this, but he knew that he could fix it because Miles wanted to save his dad. At the end of the day, he wanted to save his family, right? Even with Miguel, like Miguel's character, whatever. Well, I already said that he wasn't racist or anything. He was just trying to keep everything in line because at the same time, when it comes to Spider-Man 2099, right? All he's trying to do is save the future and make sure that Peter is not messing up in the past, or when something happens in the future, he goes back and say, Peter, you fucked up, right? Let me tell you how to fix it. Go do this, right? So it affect this, and it can be fixed. So yeah, and I'm gonna go with Ben Reilly. Well, I ain't gonna say there's any resistance with that, but he's one of my favorite Spider-Mans. I like the way they portrayed him in the movie. He was like his comic counterpart, just straight on. And I had to think about it. It was when he was being so edgy and dramatic, and the muscles, and just eternal monologuing. That was his comic counterpart. Like, he's like that in the comic. If you go back and read the thought bubbles, I'm over here shaking the camera. If you go back and read the thought bubbles, that's how he was. He was like, let me do this dramatic pose, and you can't escape me. And he just, the way he was talking, that's how he was, that's how he is in the 90s comics. Like, they just was spot on with that. Then I forgot to mention the villains. Well, I didn't forget to mention the villains. Let's get on the villains right quick. First villain, freaking the Vulture, right? How his art style was more Renaissance. You think of like Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, all those artists and everything. You can see with the pencil work and stuff like that, and they had like the little cliff notes. I like that. That was actually really good on his art style, even with the Spot. And if you guys don't even know what the Spot is, he's actually an old. Well, I remember him from the Spider-Man animated cartoon, the 90s cartoon. He was there. That's actually a good villain, and I like the backstory of how he became the Spot. Like, they tied it in the first movie, and he was like, hey, I was there, you did this, you hit me with a muffin. It's always a muffin, but you hit me with a muffin. And then, with the whole was it a kaleidoscope? I don't remember. Something, he got sucked into it like almost every Spider-Man villain, right? And he just became the Spot, and he can do dimensional portals and stuff. But I like the way his art style was. To basically, he was white villain with black dots, right? And then when he used up all his dots, you can see the not pencil tests, but the outlines of how you basically draw your characters. You draw them circles and lines first, and then you go ahead and do the noodles, and then you go ahead and do the muscles, and then you go ahead and do the fleshed out version of your character. So they did that really well. Um, Even with the score of the movie, like the music. Okay, so this is what I'm talking about. The music in the movie, like everybody's theme song from Miles to Gwen to Miguel, like their music, it was good, on point, loved it. Now I'm talking about the soundtrack. The soundtrack, I don't like the soundtrack. Mm-mm. The the first movie soundtrack, good, right? Like half the songs on the first soundtrack, liked it. This soundtrack, second movie, don't like it. It's not that great. It's maybe 2 songs on there that I like. The rest of them, no. And then, I don't want to hear I'm Spider-Man, blah blah. You rapping about you being Spider-Man, you doing this, you doing that. No, because we already know what the soundtrack's about. We know who it's about. I don't want you rapping about like you being this person. Nah, like leave it there. I'd rather have the score from the movie and not just this soundtrack. Metro, Beats, whoever, whatever, right? More of the villains. They even have the villains from I think from what I heard is that they took like not even screenshots but just like clips from the comic books or screenshots or just whatever, and of like certain villains they have captured across the Spider-Verse, and they put it into the movie. They were there. And then, shout out to my homie dude who I went to college with. Yeah, I'm throwing it out there. Donald Glover, he's actually in the movie as a Prowler. So hopefully sometime in the future, MCU Spider-Man movies, he's back in there as the Prowler, or in the live action Miles Morales Spider-Man movie as the Prowler. They keep him as that. And we all know that he voiced Miles in not the Spectacular Spider-Man, but one of the other Disney Spider-Man film. And then I don't know, I kind of called it, but I like the cliffhanger they left. I'm stuttering. I like the cliffhanger they left us on, and it was the fact that Miles went back, well not back, but he went to the universe that the Spider was from, and in that universe, because there's no Spider-Man, right? That Miles is a Prowler. I like that. So I want to see how it goes in the next movie, not newer, the next movie. And then I don't know, like for people that read the book, the comic, and everything else, the Spider-Verse comic with the Inheritors and everything, to me, the giant spider that was send people back home to their universe, it reminded me of the Spider-Verse and of the Inheritors and stuff like that. Like, so I like that. Like I said, man, like I'm gonna get that movie when it comes out on DVD, paying for it. So that movie is freaking awesome. I don't think I have anything to say. Like, that movie's top tier. Like, freaking Spider-Man No Way Home, and then Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. They're like right there. These are my top movies. Like right there. And they know how, both movies know how to handle the multiverse very well and just not mess things up. So yeah. Gonna try, can't promise you guys, be back doing more of these reviews. I'm gonna start doing shorts and everything like that. So hopefully you guys will be here and just see those, and yeah, come in, leave some